This is the G Podcast with your host, Tommy B.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome to episode 221 of This is the G Podcast. Yes. What's up? I'm Tommy B. And each week we do news, politics, pop culture, and that piping hot tea from the one and only Tonya B. Syracuse Mike has your news update. The Newsmaker crew is here. That's me and political analyst and author, Harold Michael Harvey. The first president in American history faces felony charges. We will talk about it. Harold Michael Harvey will break it down. But first, let's get into news with Syracuse Mike.
News team, assemble!
It's time for the Week in News with Syracuse Mike.
It's never happened before. The first U.S. president to ever face criminal charges was present for the first day of jury selection Monday in New York. Before things got started, Donald Trump told reporters outside the courtroom,
"This is political persecution. This is a persecution like never before. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And again, it's a case that should have never been brought. It's an assault on America."
Over half of the first batch of 96 potential jurors have already been sent home. Many indicated they couldn't be fair and impartial in the case. This is the Stormy Daniels hush money case. After a slow start, jury selection gained super speed Tuesday as 7 were seated in Donald Trump's New York hush money trial. The judge also warned the presumptive Republican presidential nominee about potential jury intimidation. Mr. Trump was heard mouthing some words and gesturing during the questioning of a potential juror. With 7 jurors now seated, he also complained that the judge was rushing the trial. Trump faces 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to cover up a hush money payment to adult film star Stormy Daniels before the election in 2016. Before it really started, it was over.
Madam President,
Majority Leaders recognized.
I move to adjourn the impeachment trial of Alejandro N. Mayorkas.
The impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas never got far in the Senate. Tuesday, articles of impeachment were delivered to the Senate by the House. The impeachment of the first cabinet member in nearly 150 years was tied to his handling of the migrant issue at the southern border. Quickly dismissing the 2 articles Wednesday in the Democratic-led Senate prompted harsh criticism from Republican Minority Leader Mitch McConnell.
No evidence, no procedure. This is a day that's not a proud day in the history of the Senate.
McConnell said by doing what they did, the Senate, in effect, ignored the directions of the House, which were to have a trial. Atlanta Mayor Andre Dickens said during a press conference Wednesday that protesters opposed to the new Public Safety Training Center have caused more than $10 million worth of damages so far. Many of the attacks have been on construction companies associated with building the training center, also known as Cop City by opponents. In sports, the NBA has permanently banned Toronto Raptors forward Jonte Porter for gambling violations. Members of the Kennedy family joined President Biden in Philadelphia to offer a pointed endorsement of the current occupant of the White House.
President Biden has been a champion for all the rights and freedoms that my father and uncle stood for. That's why nearly every single grandchild of Joe and Rose Kennedy supports Joe Biden.
A large number of Kennedy family members have been very vocal in backing Mr. Biden and not Robert F. Kennedy Jr. RFK is running as an independent, and there is growing concern inside the family and among Democratic Party leaders that Kennedy could take votes away from Biden, leading to a second Trump administration. This weekend marks the 25th anniversary of the massacre at Columbine High School in Colorado. 12 students and 1 teacher were killed. It wasn't the first mass shooting at a school in the U.S., and sadly, it would not be the last. A vigil for the victims takes place on the steps of Colorado's Capitol. Because of cable news and the internet, Columbine became one of the biggest news stories of the 1990s. Monday is the last day to register to vote for the local May primary. Early voting begins on April 29th.
Thanks, Mike, for the headlines, man. Political analyst Harold Michael Harvey is here. The fellas are out this week. Man, Harold Michael Harvey, known for several books. Freaknik Lawyer, which I say should have been included in the documentary, man. They did you wrong. That's all I Yeah, and My C.T. Vivian Story, Watch Night, and Justice in the Round. All great books. All great books. We can still get them at haroldmichaelharvey.com, correct?
Correct, yes. They're all available there.
Okay. There you go. And Any of these books relate to the current circumstances we're dealing with?
Yeah, I think
Harold Mike?
I think today we're going to be talking about the beginning of the Trump trial. And so Justice in the Round, the subtitle is Essays on the American Jury System. And although I wrote this book to try to explain to lay people what had happened as a result of that first as a result of the Trayvon Martin trial, and as a result of the first loud music trial where the defendant sort of got off before he was retried.
Mm-hmm.
So I wrote this book to sort of explain to lay people what happens in the jury process. And the salient point that I would like for people to take away from this book is that if you get a jury summons, show up.
Yeah.
And that if you show up, don't show up with excuses or with some scheme to try to get out of jury duty, because sometimes criminal defendants and whose skin color is not the lightest of hues are actually innocent. And if you don't have people who are willing to sit there and listen to the evidence and make the state or the government prove all the essential elements of the crime, they'll go down the road for something that they didn't do. So, and vice versa. Sometimes I know from my past experience as a criminal defense trial lawyer is that certain members of our society, they vote race just like certain people in our society vote party, no matter what the circumstances are. So you get a summons, you want to go. And you want to go with the attitude that you're going to be fair, and you're going to listen to the evidence, and you'll render a decision that's fair to all parties concerned.
Okay. And that leads us to another first for Donald Trump. He becomes the first American president to face a criminal trial. And that's one of the reasons I asked you to come on today. As we tape this episode, we're a few days away from another, I call it a day that will live in infamy for Donald Trump. For about 4 days a week, for the next 6 weeks, a jury will decide whether or not he becomes a convicted felon. And you know what? This moved a lot faster than I expected. I really expected 6 weeks to find a jury. And here we are with 7 men, 5 women. They have the alternates. I am shocked that as we talk today, this trial will have opening arguments in just a few days. So, Mr. Harvey, how does this trial fit into the larger scheme of legal challenges faced by Trump? And I say that because there's so much going on with him. I think it's almost like a tornado or an earthquake. You have to give it a Richter scale or an EF number. So where does it stand?
Well, it's at least a 5 on the Richter scale. I mean, this is a very serious charge. He's facing felony charges that could send him to jail for, a number of years. And of course, convicted felons also, whether he gets jail time or not, are precluded from doing certain things in our political system. For instance, running for public office and also voting in elections. So this is a very serious case. I think all of the cases are serious. So, I mean, I would not rate one above the other one. This just happens to be the one that made its way down the pipe and is ready for trial before the other ones that there's just a myriad of problems and stumbling blocks that the 2 cases that Jack Smith is prosecuting ran into, and then the case that Bonnie Willis ran in is prosecuting here in the state of Georgia. So District Attorney Bragg has gotten his case to trial, got his case to voir dire over 100, several hundred people to come up with a jury of 12 and 6 alternates. So it's surprised that it happened so quick. It just shows you what happens when you have a judge who is on top of his game and sets the tone for we're not going to let this drag out. And here's what we're going to do. If you came in here with some pre-notion and you don't want to be here, well, I don't want you here because you're the least likely person we want as a jury, so you can be excused. All right, now, all serious people remain. And we're going to ask you these questions, and the lawyer is going to figure out which one of you they want to keep around. And so
it's a speedy trial.
That's how we got to a jury in less than 4 days.
Yeah, amazing. And you know, when you look at it, because this has been going on for a few years, for multiple years, the evidence that's being presented, what do you see? How do you think this is going to have an impact on the trial?
Well, you know, there's a little difference in this case than, you know, it's commonly called a hush money trial. That was the former district attorney's case that he would have indicted, or maybe he did indict it, and when Bragg came in, he elected not to prosecute that case. So Bragg went back to the drawing board and investigated the case all over again, and he found a felony. So in addition to having charged Trump with the misdemeanor of having given hush money to keep this affair away from the voting electorate, he discovered a violation of federal campaign financial law, which is a felony, which gets us to the felony charge that Trump is after. Now, the key thing about this evidence is probably testimony and documentary evidence that will come into the trial via Trump's former lawyer, Cohen. And Cohen, from what I gather from pre-trial discussions, is that he was directed by Trump specifically to pay this money. And of course, Trump's defense is that Cohen was paid attorney fees, that the money that Trump paid to Cohen was for legal work that he had performed on behalf of Mr. Trump or one of his corporations. Cohen says no, he was specifically instructed to negotiate a deal with the tabloid to kill that story. And
well, let me ask you: do you think the legal issues of Cohen will impact, or will they use his credibility, try to attack his credibility?
They would definitely attempt to attack his credibility. Every witness's credibility comes under scrutiny.
But because he's been in jail.
And not just that he's been in jail, but he was convicted of lying.
Yeah.
Now the big question about that is, and he's going to tell this particular jury, is that he lied to protect Donald Trump. He lied to protect the secrets that Donald Trump didn't want the public to know. So he is a convicted liar. Why? Because he lied to protect his boss, who is now on trial. You know, so yes, the defense is going to bring out the conviction, going to bring out the fact that he lied under oath, and the state's counter to that is, well, why did you lie? Well, I lied to protect this defendant here. Because I was loyal to Mr. Trump, I lied to protect him so that his reputation wouldn't be ruined and he would have an opportunity to possibly be elected president of the United States. And the lie did work because the scheme to pay this woman off, you know, occurred at the time when Trump's campaign was in a tailspin over this allegation that he believed that you could do anything that women would allow you to do anything to them, including walking up to them and, you know, grabbing them by the crowd. So, you know, so that's what this case boils down to, is not only the testimony of Cohen, but the District Attorney Bragg has documents, legal documents, that establishes the testimony that Cohen is going to give. So I think that's going to sort of like smooth out and even out the problems with having to bring a witness in the court who has been convicted of, who's a convicted liar.
Well, in our lifetime, any other politician would have been long gone, out of the race. And we're looking at, a trial of a former president, first time in history, facing the potential of being a convicted felon. How do you think, because we're hearing, just like what you said, the Cohen testimony, the Stormy Daniels testimony, what's McDougal? I'm saying her name wrong. All this testimony. How do you think it's going to weigh on the polls when it comes down to re-election for him? Because again, and I don't just say this. I don't say this in humor, but it's almost like the fact that Trump said when he came down that escalator, or before that I could shoot somebody in the middle of Park Avenue or wherever in New York and walk away from it. It's almost becoming true.
Yeah, well, actually what he said was he could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and he wouldn't lose any votes.
Right.
And he wouldn't lose any votes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the situation we're in. So now you've got these salacious allegations that he was involved in an extramarital affair with a porn star and a Playboy playmate during the course of his marriage, and that even one of these escapades or affairs took place when his wife was laid up just having had a baby. So these are very salacious allegations, and I think the fact that we are now closer to November, to the election date, people are beginning to now take to pay attention to the race and to the issues. So I think during the course of the trial, when these salacious details come out about his relationship with Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal, I think his political persona will take a hit.
Because we saw what happened with Chappaquiddick. You know what I'm saying? We saw what happened with Gary Hart. You know what I mean? The list is long. The only person I think who's gotten away partially was Trump. I mean, no, was Clinton. But it is a bit amazing when you check the polls, and as this thing goes on, he's increasing.
And Clinton, if you look at that situation, I believe Clinton got away with it because his wife stood by him.
Yeah.
We don't see that same support coming from Melania Trump.
Okay.
And I understand that she's hosting a fundraiser this weekend someplace, and he's hosting a fundraiser somewhere else. So it's the dueling fundraiser by the husband and wife team. But you don't see that public support. I think it angered. I have heard reports that it angered her, and so she's sort of been a little sullen and standoffish about it. But Hillary Clinton immediately stood behind Bill, and that was sort of like the end of the discussion. Now, where these other politicians took hits, Trump is just unusual because he is a former president. He's a powerful man.
Mm-hmm.
He knows people in powerful positions, and I'm still not certain that he will not find a way to wiggle his way out of the problems that he's having, out of the legal problems and cases that he's involved in.
Well, let me ask you, with that said, the defense of delay, that's gone for this situation.
In this case, yes.
So what do you think the next strategy is going to be for his defense?
Well, he's stuck. He's got to sit there and he's got to listen to the state put up their evidence, and his attorney's got to come back and try to counter that with some reasonable explanation for the former president's conduct.
I'll tell you, I watched the at the end of the day on Friday. Okay, and they had just finished. I forgot what they call when they're going through the list of the defendant's past issues. They went through the whole list, and he came out. Say that again.
The Sandoval hearing.
Yes, he was not a happy man. He was, when he came out and addressed the press, he was pissed. And one of the pundits, one of the surrogates on I think it may have been MSNBC, said she had never seen him as shaken. He was shaken by it. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, Sandoval hearing is not something we have here in Georgia, but in New York, you have this process where the defendant has an opportunity to learn how the state will attempt to impeach its character should the defendant decide to take the witness stand and testify. Okay, so like in Georgia, I mean, you make that decision based upon your own knowledge of what issues in the past have confronted your client.
Yeah.
But in New York, the state has to get there and they have to tell you, if he should take the stand, we want to go into this bad act. And of course, the court then has a balancing test and has to determine whether or not it will allow the state to go into that.
Yeah.
And so that's what took place Friday afternoon is he sat there and he heard all of the bad things about him that the state would introduce if he took the witness stand. Now, while he has gone out before the press and said he was going to testify in this trial, I think that's just bluster like most of the stuff that he does. He's just talking and there is really no serious inclination. But in order for his counsel to adequately represent him, they've got to go through that hearing because something may happen during the course of this trial. When you get down to the end of it, the only person that can pull Donald Trump through would be Donald Trump getting on the witness stand and testifying. And he would hate to be put in that situation and not know what the state was going to come after him with. So, I think it gave him an eye opener. He's not accustomed to people saying bad things about him. And so he was forced to sit in a room and to listen to all the things that the public, in some aspect or another, thinks is wrong with his character and his personality.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the big difference because him sitting in court every day, having to deal with that, is going to be the difference in everything that's going on. It's just like, and you know me, I'm a movie guy. It's the Untouchables. You know what I mean? It's Capone, who the thing he least expected tripped him up, sent him to prison. And I think, I think we'll find out probably within the next 6 weeks what that thing's going to be. So we'll see. What's your final take, man? There are a lot of people who are saying, I don't care about this. I'm not going to, whatever happens. But I'm not going to watch it. I don't care about it. What do you say to folks?
This is a very, very important point in American history. So I mean, it's a court battle, but it has some significance to where we are as a country. Because independent voters are going to take an assessment of what takes place in the next few weeks to make up their mind, to help them to make up their mind, at least in terms of who they will support in November for the presidency of this country. And it is this simple. What November comes down to is that if Trump wins in America, you have placed two dictatorial leaders in charge of the world, Trump and Putin. And that could be bad, bad, bad for the entire Western world.
Yeah, good point.
So this is a very crucial point in American history. I don't know if District Attorney Bragg can carry the day or not, but if he can, it will have a significant impact on what happens in November. But then, Trump is a cagey infighter, and if there's a way to weasel out of a conviction, Donald Trump is a person who can find that way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And I'll say, my only take is for the week is, we have a former president who's running for re-election facing a criminal trial. Think about that. That's the thing you have to think about. And regardless, you hear, it's interesting, you hear people, some of the pundits or sports personalities, commentators like Stephen A. on Hannity saying black people relate to Trump because of his legal issues. And that it's offensive because, we know the difference. We know the difference between a Trump and, and other issues that impact people. And you said an interesting thing about people who think that way. What's your thought on that?
Well, let's take a look at it. Stephen A. is a middle-class American Negro. And when Stephen A. says it and when Donald Trump says it, what they basically are saying is that the black community has a culture of criminality. That is far from the truth. Many people in my community and in communities I'm sure that you were raised and grew up in don't have any such history of criminality. And so, but there is a segment of our society who do. That forgotten black American that is living below the middle class standards. And, so there's a certain thing called, there's classism in the black community.
Yes.
And lower income blacks who run, who come in contact with the law more frequently because it's easy for law enforcement to get them and nab them for crimes, can sort of identify with him. And if you look at the people who they were able to get into that Chick-fil-A in Atlanta, they were not middle-class American Negroes. They fell below that middle-class standard, and they do identify with him because they are persecuted. And so when he tells the American public that he's been persecuted for these crimes, for these charges, which is untrue.
He's being prosecuted.
He's been prosecuted. Yeah, he's been prosecuted, not being persecuted. There's a certain that forgotten American Negro.
Yeah.
Can identify with that because they've been left out of the system. And if there is any place in the black community where Donald Trump is beating Joe Biden, it's among the lower economic rungs in the black community.
But it's no different than what you're seeing on the mainstream side as well. Would you agree or disagree on the white side?
It's the same, so you get the forgotten lower rung white American is the rabid mega supporter, and that's why they're there, and because he does speak to at least his rhetoric sort of sounds.
His rhetoric does, yeah, but his policy.
Policy does, but his rhetoric, appears to support those people on the bottom rung. So you get poor white people who rally to him, and you get poor black people who rally to him, who saying, "Oh, he's talking about me," because that's the way I feel that the system has persecuted me. And to a large extent, they're right. They have been persecuted. And somehow in America, once we can save democracy, we've got to figure out a way to bring all Americans into the American dream.
Yeah, good point. Good point. On that note, got to thank the one and only Harold Michael Harvey, political analyst, author. Thank you so much for taking the time today. And two essays you've got out there. One addresses the Freaknik situation, you not being included in the documentary, and the other, you address the Fulton County, not the Fulton County, but the Young Thug case happening in Fulton County. Quickly, tell people how they can read that. Give a quick summary in a minute of both, and just let them know where they can find them.
You can find them at haroldmichaelharvey.com. Please go to haroldmichaelharvey.com and you can pull up both of my recent essays, and there's a subscribe button at haroldmichaelharvey.com. If you will put your information in the subscribe button and subscribe to my newsletter, you'll get, every time I post something, they'll send you a notification in your inbox. You can pull it up and read it. And quite simply, quickly, the piece on the Young Thug trial is, I've come to the conclusion after watching the trial for several months now, is that the trial management of Judge Harold Glanville is just, it leaves something to be desired. And he has yelled at both defense counsel and also at the prosecuting attorneys, basically because he has mismanaged his time and mismanaged the trial. And he's got jurors sitting around all day sometime, and all they get to do is stay in the jury room while the lawyers fight over whether or not a piece of evidence can come into the trial. So he's issued this administrative order to try to streamline things, and then he says that if you don't present to the other side evidence within this time frame, then I'm not going to allow the evidence to come in. And of course, by withholding evidence, I mean, I think it sort of violates the constitutional rights of the state, who's out there to protect the interests of all of us. And also it potentially violates the right of the criminally accused to be able to, have the evidence that they need at their disposal in order to prove their innocence, or to get the state from establishing beyond a reasonable doubt that they're guilty. So I sort of go through the temper tantrums of Judge Glanville, and I conclude that he's basically setting this trial up to be won on appeal.
Yeah. Wow. Emotional maturity.
I mean, and of course, way back at the turn of the century, or just before the turn of the century, I engaged in a conversation with him about having gone through a stress test and how he did that in order to understand, in order to increase his level of tolerance and endurance without having to blow his stack on the bench. And he was a new judge at this point in time. I suggested maybe it may be time to revisit the results of that stress test, to undergo another one, because it's not working. 25 years later, it's not working.
Wow.
And then, of course, I feel offended. I feel abused that Hulu has written me out of history. I performed an invaluable service to the Atlanta City judicial system and to historically Black college and university students during the mid to late 1990s in providing pro bono legal representation to students who were arrested during Freaknik. And of course, this is the third weekend in April, and Freaknik was traditionally held the third weekend in April. And so in 1995, this time of day, I was down at the jail trying to get students out of jail and back to school by Monday so they could be in class by Monday. And, from my own estimation, it was yeoman service. I got probably about 4 or 5 hours of sleep in 72 hours. Had no help, although a number of people had signed the sheet to say that they will volunteer to provide free services to these students. No one showed up to help me until Monday morning, and they all wanted to bask in the glory of all the hard work that I had done over the weekend.
Yeah.
And so then you have Hulu comes out with a documentary, and while they talk about the disturbances and students were being arrested, and some believe they were unfairly arrested, they don't talk about a Black lawyer who didn't charge a student a penny in order to get them out of jail. I mean, one of the first things that we could do for them, we couldn't get them a bond right away, but we thought that the most important thing to do, and when I say we, I worked after I established the fact that Gate City Bar Association would sponsor pro bono attorneys, I partnered with the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and with Ozell Sutton, who was the Community Relations Director, Southeastern Community Relations Director for the United States Justice Department, and so we decided that the best that we could do initially was to make sure that when those kids who were arrested for the first time in their life, 17, 18, 19 years old, that they saw a friendly face. And so I spent the night, Friday night, from 5 or 6 o'clock, I spent that until 3:30. I spent in the jail talking to everybody who had been arrested, making sure that they understood that there was somebody on the outside trying to get them out of there as soon as possible.
Well, let me tell you, there are thoughts of a part 2. What I'm hearing, they're trying to get a part 2. We need a petition, do whatever we need to do. Talk to the folks at Hulu about getting that included, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
That story needs to be told. And
yeah, it does.
It's a very important part of the process.
Yeah.
Of course, I took a professional hit as a result of standing up for people I didn't know.
Yeah.
But then, when you take the oath, that's what you take the oath to do.
Good stuff. On that note, gotta again thank you, Harold Michael Harvey, for all you do, man. Thank you for coming on again today. Y'all, we love your thoughts, your feedback. Go to castropolis.net, choose the people poll, leave us a voice message. Love to hear from you. And again, go to haroldmichaelharvey.com. Both those essays are on the site, along with the opportunity to get those books. Mr. Harvey, thank you again. Thank you again. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All right, man. All right, well, we'll take a break, and we'll do Tonya B with the tea right after the break. Thank you again.
Free Palestine.
More. This is the G Podcast after the break.
Hey, this is Tommy B from This Is the G Podcast. I want to encourage all my G's who reside in the area of Jonesboro, Stockbridge, Covington, Conyers, South Gwinnett. That's the new Georgia Congressional District 13 to vote for Karen Renee for Congress. Karen Renee is a true advocate for her constituents and truly believes in empowering the people. Visit electkarenrenee.com for more information and also find out whether you're in the new District 13. Follow her campaign on Facebook at Elect Karen Renee. Let's support a candidate who truly represents the people.
Now then, children, it's time for tea.
It's tea time, y'all. Sipping the tea with Tonya B.
Yes, children, it is tea time with the girl Tonya B right here on This Is the G Podcast. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Each and every day we bring it to you. A good bowl of gumbo, pop culture, entertainment, sports, politics, you name it, we got it. And don't forget to check out the G Podcast YouTube channel. All right, here we go, y'all. It's your girl Tonya B coming to you from somewhere in America. First, we've got to say rest in peace to former American Idol finalist Mandisa Hunley. She lost her life at 47 years young a couple of days ago. She was found deceased in her Tennessee home. Now, back in 2014, she actually won a Grammy for her album Overcomer in the category of Contemporary Christian Music Album. She had struggled with anxiety and depression and her weight. She'd gotten gastric bypass. She gained over 100 pounds. Don't know what the cause of death is, but her voice was powerful and it will be missed. We will also miss the voice of one author, Pooch Tavares of the legendary Boston R&B group Tavares. You know, More Than a Woman, Don't Take Away the Music, Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel, Check It Out, She's Gone, Who Done It, all of that. Well, he left the group after a massive stroke a couple of years ago, but then he also lost his battle with ALS. Now, last year, his brother Ralph passed away, and Chubby Tavares, the other co-lead singer of songs like Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel and things along that line, he retired from performing due to his health issues. So we only have Tiny Tavares and Pooch Tavares remaining. I hope the brother Victor will rejoin the group and don't take away the music, because baby, Tavares had hits on hits on hits. Ashanti was pregnant. We knew it the moment everybody said, "Oh, her mama denying it. She's pregnant. She and Nelly are engaged. Wish them all the best." Nelly got to keep a gig now. He's going to go on the road with Janet Jackson as her opening act. Shout out to 50 Cent. As intelligent as he can be cuckoo for Cocoa Puff sometime, he about his business now. He just opened up G-Unit Studios in Shreveport, Louisiana. Not too far from New Orleans, but after Tyler Perry, he is the second largest black-owned film studio in the world. I couldn't even get it out. All right, 50 Cent, 5 on it to you. Okay, in the we tired of y'all category. Again this week, Neo go back in the corner. Apparently he seems to think bigamy is okay, so move to Utah. Put out a hit record, because the one you put out last week is not going to pay that child support for them 6 kids and 4 baby mamas you got. So just Neo, be quiet. Also, Dumb Donkey of the Week, Ryan McKnight, further confirmed he ain't nothing but straight trash. Yes, I said it. That's my opinion. But he's calling his kids from his first marriage a product of sin. Well, who committed the sin, you sinner? Okay, he got the lady pregnant and he married her. Now, his first 2 sons ain't checking for him anymore. And I think they're more talented than him, truth be told. He's calling them evil beings. No, Brian, you're the evil being. Go get a hit record, because you can't sell a record to save your soul. And you are just a first-class a-hole. Yes, I made it rhyme. I'm sick of you. And stay off social media. Go get some therapy. Well, I guess you know King Charles, that expensive experiment down at CNN, has gone bust. His show has been canceled. They had to pay. Gayle King got $12 million. So now she can get some more weight loss shots. And girl, please go get a new wig. Charles Barkley, go sit down. Anyway, that's all I got to say about the 2 of them. Ooh, good God, good God. Mariah Carey. She may not have given up her caviar and cocktails, but she's getting a new body courtesy of, they call it the shot, the weight loss shots, a good surgeon, and a new man. Word from the curb is that she and Lenny Kravitz are dating, but I'm telling you right now, Tommy B is not going to last. She's too high maintenance, and he said, as he worked out in those leather pants, he only bathes once a month. Ooh, the funk is getting me right now. Ooh, God. But each of them clearly has a type. But inquiring minds are wondering, is this just a stunt to get attention? Because, you know, Mariah's going back to Vegas for a residency, and Lenny Kravitz and Mariah are both up for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Y'all can have that. But anyway, Tyler Perry re-up with BET, so you'll keep seeing all the Queens, Men, Sisters, and all those other shows. And Netflix, he said Madea was going to retire and go on to glory, but that's not true, because as long as she make a coin, she gonna live on and on. Coming to Netflix later on this year, it's Madea's Destination Vacation Wedding. You know, Maria is Madea's evil twin, so, you know, hey, you heard it here first, okay? That's all I had to say about that. Now, I want to tell you something. We don't talk about dumb Diddy, but now Kris Jenner's purse holder, aka her boyfriend Corey Gamble, is now being connected to Diddy. Did he do it? Why was Corey Gamble in Kim Porter's house when she died? Allegedly, but it explains now why the feds are looking for his mama bear, Kris Jenner. Allegedly, the feds found evidence of Corey Gamble and Kris Jenner in Puffy's house. Now, did you hear the Usher interview where Howard Stern said, would you send your kids to Camp Diddy? And he said, oh, hell no. And I don't blame him. But Puffy about to start snitching, because he said, I'm not going down by myself. And he got the freak off tapes and a whole bunch of other receipts. So that's all I got. Ain't got no more. It's your girl, Tonya B. Don't forget the Bird Wire. On demand 24/7 at Castropolis.net. You have been served up your tea for this week.
Thanks to Tonya B, Vibe to lead, and author and political analyst Harold Michael Harvey. Thanks to the crew, Millennial Nick, Lady J, Regia, music by K-Dub, all those who help us make it happen every single week. Don't forget, y'all, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you can get new episodes as they come out. And with that, y'all, episode 221's in the can. Have a great week. Peace and power to the people.
You've been listening to This is the G Podcast. This is the G Podcast is a production of the Castropolis Podcast Network. Thanks for listening.